What's up, everybody? This is Christoforou with the Duran, and I'm here with Alexander Mercouris, editor-in-chief of the Duran, and we're going to talk a little bit more about Stefan Halper, who's the spy in the FBI spy in the Trump campaign, and we're going to explore the question as to why President Trump does not start putting people in prison. So, Alexander, we talked in a previous video a little bit about Stefan Halper and the FBI spying on the Trump campaign and how far it goes, whether it goes up to the to Obama himself, how much did Hillary Clinton know, and so on. The big question that I have now that Trump is president, and I imagine that Trump has the executive authority and the executive power to order an investigation, to order his DOJ, who in this case is Jeff Sessions, even though he has recused himself from the Russia gate, the Mueller investigation. I'm sure that Sessions could investigate what we would call Spygate, or what Trump is actually calling Spygate in this instance. Why is Trump delaying so much in calling? I don't know if he would call a special counsel. I don't know if he would have Sessions do it. I don't know if what the process would be. But can you tell us, why is Trump delaying in actually going after some of these guys? Clapper, Brennan, Comey, even Loretta Lynch. She had a suspicious meeting with Clinton on the tarmac, which I'm sure they weren't talking about their grandkids. Why is Trump delaying in getting things moving?
Well, I don't think he's in full control of the Justice Department. In fact, I don't think he's ever been in real control of the Justice Department. He brought Jeff Sessions in thinking that Jeff Sessions would run it for him, and Jeff Sessions has not been running it for him. Now, I have to say...
Who's running it? Who's running it?
Who's running it? At the moment, if we're talking about all these investigations, the person who's running it is Rod Rosenstein, who is the Deputy Attorney General. Now, the problem with that is that Rosenstein, it turns out, is heavily implicated in Spygate himself. He signed off some of the applications for FISA warrants, which are now the subject of investigation as part of Spygate. And I think his position logically should be untenable. I mean, I can't really see how Rosenstein can continue as he is. So logically, Trump should be sacking him. He should be putting his own people into the Justice Department.
Why? Why is he not doing it?
Why is he not doing it? And this is the puzzle. Either he is intimidated in some way, because he thinks that if he does this, it will trigger some gigantic pushback against him. He saw what happened when he sacked Comey, and there was talk of impeachment then, and all sorts of strange things came up. Maybe he's afraid of that. Maybe he's afraid of that politically, or possibly there is something that he is nervous about. They may have no knowledge about him which he's concerned about. I have to say, I don't think there is any knowledge about him. I think he's very inexperienced. I think he's still in awe of these people. I think he's also surrounded himself with lawyers who advised him to be as accommodating as possible. I think he's now starting to change his legal team. I think he's now starting to find that he's got more friends in Congress than he once did. And I bet maybe as his political position strengthens, he will be able to take on the Justice Department where all the problems are. But it is still somewhat baffling that he hasn't done it yet. And that is one of the great unanswered mysteries of this affair.
Could Sessions open up an investigation, even though he recused himself from the Mueller special counsel? Is he still able to open up an investigation on this Spygate?
I think he can, actually, because, of course, the reason Sessions recused himself was because he had certain meetings with the Russian ambassador, Ambassador Kislyak, and people were saying that this means that he's got some sort of conflict of interest here. Now, whatever one view one takes of that, he can't possibly have any kind of conflict of interest in relation to the things that Obama's Justice Department and James Comey's FBI were up to, because he was not part of any of that. So I would have thought that he would be entirely within his rights to insist upon all of those things being properly investigated. But he is not doing it. And again, one has to wonder why. Is it because at some level he has sympathies with some of these people? Maybe he's also angry with Trump for some reason. Trump has made criticisms of him. Or maybe as a conservative, very conservative Southerner, he supports the intelligence agencies for some reason. I don't know. But can I just say, this has been the big roadblock in this affair. It is the Justice Department's unwillingness to investigate its own actions. And let us remember the FBI is technically a part of the Justice Department. And it is the failure of the political leadership of the United States, Donald Trump and Jeff Sessions, to ensure that those investigations happen. And that is concerning, and there's no very clear answer to it. But perhaps over time, as more questions get asked and more answers get given, we will find out.
What can Congress do in this instance? Because I know Congress has been having a very hard time also dealing with the DOJ, especially when dealing with documents. They've had, I mean, the DOJ just does not release or would not release many of the documents that Congress wanted in order to investigate things further. And when they would get released, they would be heavily redacted. So in this instance, being that Trump does have some allies in Congress, most notably Devin Nunes, what can Congress do to help things along and perhaps to help ease Trump's concerns in opening up a full-on investigation into what happened? And also, I imagine that Trump could also declassify just about every document there is, and let the American public see what's happening.
Well, to answer the last question first, yes, he can. He could do that, and it's perhaps a bit disappointing that he hasn't. But as to what Congress can do an awful lot, and actually has done an awful lot. The reason the steam has gone out of Russiagate to a great extent is because people like Nunes have used their position in the Congress, in Nunes' case as chair of the House Intelligence Committee, which has oversight power over the intelligence agencies, to ask lots and lots of questions, to examine witnesses, and to subpoena witnesses in order to force them to provide documents as well as answer questions. Now, the problem that he has run into is that, of course, the Justice Department and the FBI have been very unwilling to respond to these questions. I mean, they've just stonewalled much of the time. The ultimate power Congress has is the power of impeachment. Now, impeachment doesn't just extend to the president. They can impeach the attorney general. They can impeach the deputy attorney general. They can impeach any office holder. They have threatened to do it if questions aren't asked. Rosenstein was apparently very upset about it when he was told that he was risking possible impeachment. Impeachment, however, requires the support of both houses of Congress. At the moment, the Republicans have control of the House. They have also perhaps rather less secure control of the Senate, in that some of the Republican senators are perhaps not fully on board with this. If the November elections go their way, their position might be strengthened, and that power of impeachment might actually grow. In the meantime, they also have a negative power in the sense that Republicans in Congress can block any attempt to impeach Donald Trump, because impeachment requires a vote of 2/3 of the Senate. I have to say, I don't think we're anywhere near a position of impeaching Donald Trump any longer. I think that danger, even if the Democrats win the midterms in November, has effectively gone. I just don't see that there's any evidence to do it. But if anybody tries it, I think the Republican Party, both in the House and in the Senate, will solidly oppose it. And without the support of the Republicans, impeachment of Donald Trump isn't going to happen. Right. So, to answer your question again, it does have some power, and it perhaps in the end has the ultimate power. But the procedure for it to use it is complicated and it is difficult.
Is Sessions on his way out?
Well, there's been talk about that, and perhaps he should be, actually. I mean, he's not really managed to gain control of the Department of Justice. Donald Trump said right after it became known that Sessions was going to recuse himself, that Sessions had deceived him about it and should have informed the president that he would recuse himself before he became Attorney General. And frankly, with the way things are going, I think that is right. And I think perhaps it's time for Sessions to consider his position and go. Or perhaps it's time for Donald Trump to think of putting someone else in charge in the Justice Department who can bring this department, which is frankly a loose cannon now in the government, under control.
Well, would it be fair to say that Sessions, who's a lifelong career politician, would it be fair to say that he's on the side of the deep state and maybe he's protecting much of the antics and the illegal practices that the DOJ, the FBI, and all these agencies were up to?
I think we have to look back at Sessions' career. He's a conservative Southern politician, a former judge, a lawyer, the kind of person who axiomatically, almost automatically, is a supporter of institutions like the FBI. One would not expect Sessions to be a crusader to push back against institutions like the FBI, the Department of Justice, the CIA, the rest. So in that respect, it's perhaps not so surprising that he is resisting all of this. The problem was, for Donald Trump, where Donald Trump may have been deceived, is that Sessions supported him during the presidential election. And I think that may have caused Trump to misread the extent to which Sessions was really on his side in this conflict. I'm not convinced he really is on Trump's side. I think he's been forging his own furrow, frankly, and I don't think it's been doing Trump many favors, if any favors at all.
Yeah, well, maybe Sessions was the ultimate insurance policy for the establishment, for the deep state, by in his own way grooming Trump and getting close to Trump, so that if in the off chance Trump did win the presidency, which no one expected, you did have a Jeff Sessions in place in a powerful position who could stop any of this information coming out. I mean, would that be a fair assessment?
It might very well be. I mean, it's logical, and what is logical is often true.
Right.
I would add that the other person one really needs to think very carefully about is Rod Rosenstein, who clearly is not a friend of the president's, and one has to wonder how it came about that this person, who was clearly implicated in the Pfizer warrants, became deputy attorney general and was put in charge, effectively, of the whole investigation. I mean, Rosenstein is an interesting man and somebody who really needs to answer, it seems to me, lots and lots of questions here. I mean, he's played a very, very interesting role. I mean, there's been a court hearing in which it turned out that he's given all kinds of instructions to Mueller verbally, which extend Mueller's remit, or which Mueller's team say extend Mueller's remit, well, which have never been published and never been even possibly put down in writing. Now, what kind of a deputy attorney general does that? That seems to me a remarkable thing. The judge who heard that, District Judge Ellis, was astonished. And when I heard about it, so was I.
Are you referring to the fact that Mueller and his team are acting as not only prosecutors but as attorneys? I mean, I'm not exactly sure as to the legal
I'll tell you the precise context in which that happened, which is Mueller is, of course, as we've discussed previously in an earlier video, he is prosecuting Paul Manafort for various financial irregularities. So the judge asked him, why are you, Mueller, who is supposed to be investigating Russiagate, investigating Manafort for financial irregularities? Where is your authority to do that? Why isn't this being done by a conventional district attorney's office? And Mueller's attorneys in the court said, well, we are doing it because we have this mandate from Rosenstein. So the judge said, right, can I see this mandate? And they said, no, we can't provide this mandate because it's so secret. And it's not the one that was published. The one that was published doesn't really cover everything that Mueller is authorized to do. And some of it was verbal. And as I said, the judge, when he heard that, was incredulous and very concerned about it. And so should everybody be. And that is what, it seems, Rod Rosenstein has been up to.
Well, I was watching Hannity yesterday, and they actually touched on this subject. And from what I gather, it's the president that can appoint these types of attorneys. So the fact that Rosenstein appointed and gave such power to Mueller and his team, does that not nullify Mueller and the Constitution itself? Because shouldn't it have started at the president and not at Rosenstein?
I think so. I mean, to be honest, I think they should have all gone all the way to President Trump himself. I mean, what Rosenstein did was Rosenstein engineered Comey's dismissal, managed to do it in a way that ended up with Donald Trump being blamed for it, even though it was a memo that Rosenstein provided that got Comey, who was very compromised, out of the way. He then appointed Mueller. He did it without apparently consulting Trump. Trump found out about it. So I mean, it's absolutely upside down, bizarre stuff. I mean, it's what we said before. We were saying before. I mean, Trump has not been in control of what is happening in his own Justice Department, and given that he is the president of the United States, the man who is responsible for the U.S. government, the man who is responsible for the executive. And to be clear, both the Justice Department and the FBI are parts of the executive. One would expect him to be at least consulted in these decisions. So, I mean, it's most strange that all this was done to him. And perhaps it's because he didn't really understand and wasn't properly advised that what was being done was actually encroaching on his own authority.
Finally, Alexander, do you think that Trump will eventually not only get rid of Sessions, but also Rosenstein?
I don't think there's any doubt about Rosenstein. I think, especially if the Republicans, as I said, hold on in November, I think Rosenstein's career in the Justice Department is not going to go on for very much longer. I mean, I think he is a very compromised figure in all of this. He's played a very interesting and complicated and strange game. As for Sessions, I think Donald Trump is very tired of Sessions. I think he feels very disappointed and frustrated in Sessions, who I think he feels has allowed this situation to get so completely out of control. I think if the Republicans hold on in November and Trump can be sure that whoever he nominates in Sessions' place will get confirmed by the Senate, I think that in November, Sessions will be gone as well. He might be gone before then, of course, also. But I would have thought that if the Republicans hold on in November, his days are numbered too.
Fascinating stuff. The swamp definitely runs deep. Definitely runs deep. Alexander Mercouris, thanks for... What's this?
Deeper than Trump,
yeah.
Deeper than Trump realized.
Oh, yeah, for sure. For sure. Deeper than we all realized. That's for sure. Alexander Mercouris, thanks for breaking a lot of what is an extremely complicated but fascinating situation that's unfolding in this whole Spygate, Russiagate, Russia collusion, FBI, Comey narrative. It's astonishing stuff that's coming out. It really is. Everybody, don't forget to subscribe to our videos by clicking that red button below. And also don't forget to click on that notification bell to get notifications every time we push out a new video. Visit DRN Shop to pick yourself up a great t-shirt, some cool merchandise, maybe a retro poster.